As soon as I stepped on a flight 747 of Altura Airways, I knew I wasn't just walking into a cabin. I was walking into judgment. You're in the wrong place, darling. That's executive class, and you're not quite what we're used to up here. That was the first thing I heard. No greeting, no smile, just those ice-cold words from Captain Brent Malone, spoken low but loud enough to echo like a gunshot in the front row. Heads turned. Conversation stopped. Suddenly, I wasn't a passenger. I was a problem. I stood still, my carry-on slung over one shoulder, wearing a plain linen blouse and black trousers. I didn't dress to impress. I dressed to travel. But apparently, existing as a composed black woman in seat one, it was all it took to throw the front cabin off balance. Before I could respond, the head stewardess, Diane, clicked on the intercom like she was calling roll in a courtroom. Passenger in 1A, please prepare to move to the rear cabin until your boarding credentials are authenticated. The words hit harder than turbulence. I passed her my boarding slip. She scanned it with all the care of someone flipping through junk mail. This looks off, she muttered, signaling for someone to escort me to coach. Probably snuck in here from general boarding. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't flinch. Instead, I pulled out my ID. Not just any ID. Altura Elite Titanium. Embossed. Personalized. Diane rolled her eyes. Cute print job. From behind, a man in a tailored gray suit let out a snort. Come on, let's not pretend she's one of us. His name was Maxwell Drake. I'd seen his type before. Mouths full of money, brains full of bias. I'd been through this before. At 23, I scraped together enough to fly business for the first time. The gate agent asked if I was lost. I wasn't. But that memory? It never left. It built me. And now here I was, founder and owner of the very airline they were trying to drag me off of. Across the aisle, a young woman named Zoe began recording with her phone. Her friend Milo leaned in. The atmosphere began to shift. Curious stares morphed into murmurs. Then, a junior attendant named Riley, nervous but resolute, stepped forward. I verified her boarding pass earlier. Diane snapped. Well, you verified wrong. I held my ID higher. Jordan Wells, CEO, Altura Global. Diane tossed it onto the armrest like it was a coffee receipt. Milo picked it up, reading out loud. CEO. Someone in 1B whispered, Wait, did she say CEO? Zoe trained her phone on Diane. You're going to regret this. I stayed still. Calm. Call the head office. I said to my assistant via text. Start internal review protocol. The captain's voice cracked through the intercom again. This isn't a charity service. We fly professionals. You're about to be unemployed with that tone. I answered, not raising my voice, just aiming it. Maxwell scoffed. This is why you people always make it about race. Riley didn't hesitate. And here you are proving it. Diane jumped back on the mic. We're experiencing a seeding error involving a possible unauthorized upgrade. Riley yanked the mic from her hand. Enough with the lies. The cabin was no longer silent. It was split. Another crew lead, Travis, tried brushing past me. Ma'am, we've got real passengers waiting. That word, real, hit like a slap. Then another steward, Dominic, grabbed my laptop bag without asking and shoved it into the bin. We've got a standard to uphold, he muttered. I stared at him. And that's the last thing you'll ever do in Altura uniform. Zoe hit post. Within minutes, the clip was all over social media. But right there in that cabin, something bigger was happening. People were picking sides. And then Riley dropped the bomb. Diane did this before. 2 months back. Same treatment. Black passenger. She told me to keep it quiet. A man in the front whispered. She said so. I stepped forward. No more hiding behind headsets. Zoe stood up. She doesn't need to threaten you. Just being here makes you panic. Captain Malone tried calling airport security. Disruptive passenger in 1A. That's when Kenyon, airport security, arrived. He didn't say a word at first. Just looked at Diane. Then me. I handed him my ID again. Jordan Wells, sole owner of Altura Global. His eyes flicked to Diane. I'm not removing her, he said. And neither should you. And just like that, the dynamic snapped. I gave them 5 minutes to fix it. They didn't. So I did. Diane, Malone, Travis, Dominic, all terminated. right there in first class. The announcement wasn't loud, but the silence that followed, that was the sound of a system cracking open. Malone growled, "This is a stunt. You don't belong here." I stared right back. "Neither do you," Diane whispered. "They told us to ignore bias complaints." Dominic added, "We were trained to avoid escalation if race came up." I raised my voice. How many passengers paid for that silence? Then I launched the Elevate initiative. Mandatory bias training, third-party audits, anonymous reporting, all the safeguards I never had when I started. I promoted Riley right there. She cried. I couldn't, not yet. As I stepped off the plane, a little boy tugged my sleeve. "Are you going to make all the planes fair now?" I smiled. That's the goal. 6 months later, Altura gates felt different. The uniforms had changed. So had the culture. Passengers like me didn't get the side eye anymore. They got welcome aboard. You good? Because the goal wasn't PR. It was change. Real, structural, overdue change. One day, I got a letter from a former Altura employee who once buried bias complaints. "You didn't know me," it said, "but thank you for not stepping off that plane quietly." Impact isn't measured in headlines. It's measured in the silence you break. So here's the question. If you're standing where I stood, what would you do? Speak up or stay seated? Because discrimination doesn't need permission, just your silence. And I'm done staying silent. I didn't ask to become the face of this confrontation. I didn't board that plane to spark a movement. I was just trying to take my seat, one I'd earned, paid for, and built through grit and late nights and 1,000 closed doors. But life doesn't wait for permission to test you. Sometimes the moment chooses you, and all you can do is rise. What happened that day wasn't just about a seat. It wasn't even just about me. It was about a pattern, quiet, insidious, and all too familiar. The kind that tells people they're out of place in rooms they fought their way into. The kind that wraps itself in politeness, policy, and protocol, but stinks of prejudice. People like to talk about progress like it's inevitable. But progress doesn't just happen. It's forced. It's pulled into being by people who refuse to keep their heads down. People who ask uncomfortable questions, who disrupt the script, who get called too much for demanding the bare minimum of respect. So no, I didn't stay quiet. And I won't ever again. Not for comfort. Not to fit in. Not to make the gatekeepers feel better about their locks. Since that day, the culture inside Altura has shifted, not perfectly, not instantly, but undeniably. There are new faces in leadership now, ones that look like the real world. Policies aren't just paper anymore. They're action, real accountability, real change. I see in the emails from young women just entering the industry. In a way, Riley now leads her team with dignity. In a way, passengers smile instead of stare when they see someone like me in seat 1A. And I see it in myself, steadier, sharper, and even more relentless than before. Because now I know, when you speak up, even when your voice shakes, even when you're alone, someone's listening. Someone's watching. Someone's learning how to stand because they saw you do it first. If you've ever been told to shrink, to wait your turn, to be grateful for half of what you earned, don't. Take up the space. Challenge the lie. Correct the record. Because it's not just about one flight, one company, one moment. It's about rewriting the rules so that no one else has to prove they belong in a seat that was always theirs to begin with. So when your moment comes, because it will, don't sit back. Stand up, speak out, and don't ever hand your power to people who didn't give it to you in the first place.